Welcome, team, to our Monday night team training and inspiration. I am Stephanie Abrams, a staff with Plexus Worldwide, and tonight I am really thrilled for you guys to get to meet Natalie. She is the first jewel. She was the first jewel in Canada, so she's going to be sharing some tips about that. But also, this woman and her husband. They are a professional, I say they're professional network marketers. So they've done this before with other companies, and they decided to make Plexus their last company. I believe Natalie's going to share more about that. But so what she says tonight, it's been applied in more than just Plexus. She's very knowledgeable about what she's talking about. So I really hope you guys listen and learn from her tonight. So anyway, Natalie, I'll go ahead and switch it over to you, and you can go ahead and share. So I guess just a little bit about your story, how you got started, and what your background is.
Okay. Thanks, Stephanie. I'm excited to be here with you, and I'm always excited when I'm asked to talk specifically about the professional network marketing and why I came to Plexus. I will start with my background. By profession, I'm a nurse. And I was working in the field of maternal infant nursing, a field I loved. But in 1994, so we're going back 22 years ago, I had some challenges. I'm one of the old ones in Plexus, a grandma, and I kind of think it's funny when I used to be one of the young ones in my business, and now everywhere I go, I feel like I'm everybody's mother, or not everybody's grandmother. I'm not quite that old, but in 1994, I kind of fell into my first company. I had had some health challenges. I went to see a doctor in Toronto. Stephanie said, I'm from Canada. I live about an hour and a half northeast of Toronto. And I went to see this doctor. He actually wrote The Joy of Health, a medical doctor who practiced natural medicine. And he introduced me to a line of products. And every month I drove back to Toronto, paid for a consult, bought my products, and would drive back to Peterborough. After about 6 months, one of the nurses I work with said, you could pay for a wholesale membership with this company. It's a network marketing company. I'd never heard that terminology before, had no idea what she was talking about, but I did like the idea that I could get the products cheaper. And in that period of time that I had been buying the products from this doctor, I had been talking to everybody at the health unit. I was a manager. I had a pretty large department. Every time we were in lunch, I would tell people what I was learning about holistic products and what they were doing for me, and what I had learned just in general about natural products and the effect they can have on our immune system. So I was really talking a lot about the link between health, natural health, supplementation, choices we make, and our immune system. 6 months later, approximately, I became a wholesale member. That was November 1994. I immediately put a notice up in the health unit staff room to say, hey, I buy these products wholesale now. If you want to get them through my account, here's my ID number, here's the phone number, here's all the products and their prices. And lo and behold, a month later, I got a check, a $1,200 check. I had no clue how I got it. But the first thing I did was call our best friend, who's a lawyer, and ask him if he would mind checking this out. And the reason for that is I had hidden the enrollment from my husband. He was a CPA and didn't believe at all in network marketing. And he did not want me to get a wholesale membership, or he didn't know about the wholesale membership. He didn't want me to be involved. He didn't want me to be involved with any company, because several people had gone to him mostly about Amway, and I would hear him talk about how he thought these companies weren't legitimate. So when the person explained to me about the wholesale membership and that you could make money, I thought, I don't want to tell him about that. I just want to get the products wholesale. Then I got this check. Well, being a man and being an accountant, when the lawyer had clarified for me that this was called a commission check, and that so many people at the health unit had actually ordered products, I had reached a level of leadership called a manager. And that was a good portion of that money was bonus. Well, he got excited. He said, you weren't even working for this. Can you imagine what you could do if you worked? So immediately he was a believer in the very first month. And it's in fact where it was in this company that I met Alfred, Alec, and Tarl. and became close to all of them very, very quickly. So that's over 20 years ago. I was with that company for 4.5 years. I did so well that I ended up retiring from my nursing position 4.5 years later. I left my nursing job. I was making good money. I was one of the top income earners in the company. The problem was, after I made that decision, that company was sold. And I was on the advisory board. I didn't feel really comfortable with the changes that were inevitable. So I made a decision to leave and go to another company. And I moved to my second company. Now that's the company I did the best in the sense that I built a big income quickly. I took all the skills I had learned in 4.5 years and I applied them at this new company. And I spent almost 10 years there. Without giving lots of story about, I will tell you, I was with a company called Melaleuca, and one of our new executives at the company came from Melaleuca, and so did the head of our IT, actually.
Yeah, I saw that. And my mom actually, that's one of the things that my mom has done. It's kind of neat, exciting just to see other industry leaders now coming to Plexus also, just along with you. So
yeah, well, and it was a good company for me to be at in terms of learning a lot about the industry. And I built fast. And I don't say this to brag. I just share this with you so that you know that I do know the business. My very first month in that company, my second company, I earned over 20,000 and earned over 400 in my very first year. So I built it quickly. I chose almost 10 years later to leave because of the direction they had gone. I wasn't comfortable with it. I didn't like the culture of the company. And I'd learned a lot about the profession. I had really, in that period of time, began taking professional courses and really made it my mission to become a profession in this industry of network marketing. Mm-hmm. So I left, and that was a difficult decision because I had a very big income when I left, but I went to my third company. And that third company is not a strong company like Plexus, but they're still out there. They have great product. The problem is I got seduced by the comp plan called a binary. It didn't take me long, all of about 3 or 4 months, to realize that comp plan sucks. And it was not where I should be. But I was there and I was already making a good income. However, for lots of reasons that I won't get into tonight, I made a decision not to work. What a cutie. Made a decision not to work that business anymore and I didn't work any business for a couple years. In fact, from 2009 to 2012, I didn't work any network marketing business. I collected my income from my company, and I had a great relationship with the owners there, and they knew my feeling about realizing that it wasn't a place to bring people to. It wasn't a good comp plan for inexperienced people. And so it didn't feel authentic and it didn't feel honest, recruiting people into the comp plan. So I just collected my income. And then in 2012, I turned 50. And we decided to go on a trip to celebrate turning 50. And we also said this is the time we either decide that we can work this other company or go find a company to work, because the lifestyle that we had was not going to continue if we didn't generate some more income. Because my husband had also retired. When I retired from my nursing position, he had sold his accounting practice. So he had now been retired for 10 years. So we decided that we needed to do something, and I began the journey. And this is where Plexus comes in. I started making phone calls to some top income earners in different companies and telling them some of the criteria that I wanted, that I was looking for in my final company. I felt at 50, the 3 companies I had done were all in business. They were still strong companies, and people were going in and making money. But I realized that there was a culture that I wanted that did not exist there in those companies. So now what I was looking for was all wrapped around the company's culture and their compensation plan. It was critical for me that I find those. Now, you haven't heard me say the products, and that is not to say that the products were not going to be important. I made an assumption that if the company was growing, they probably had good products. So I decided that I was going to worry less about the products. I would try to find a company that was growing, but more importantly, because if you have a super growing company like the company I was with, Melaleuca, that do over $1 billion, but don't have the culture you want, then it doesn't matter. They have great products. The next company I went to have incredible products, some of the best health products as well, but they don't have the culture or the comp plan. So it wasn't a place I could be. So I thought, okay, now what I have to do is focus less on making my decision based on product, which is what I had done in my previous company, and make it all about culture and the compensation plan. So I started calling people in the industry who are top income earners and other companies, and I said, these are the things I'm looking for. Could you suggest a company? And nobody suggested Plexus. I'm sure nobody knew about Plexus at the time, until a girlfriend of mine stopped by my house, #1 income earner in a company called Send Out Cards in Canada. Jordan Adler's #1 in the States, but she's #1 income earner in Canada. And she stopped by my house, and I told her what I was looking for. And after she realized I wasn't going to go into Send Out Cards, she said, you know what, you need to call Tarl and Alec and Alfred. You need to call those guys, and you need to talk to them about Plexus and what their vision is. I think this is a company you could be really excited about. And that's where I started. I called them, I did a little bit of research on the internet, and then right away that afternoon I got on the phone with these guys. And by the time I finished talking to them all, I would say it was about a 3-hour discussion with the different ones. And I knew that this is where I wanted to be. At least what I was hearing about their vision for the company. Now, September 2012, they were doing $2 million a month. Very different company than they are right now, just $2 million a month. And it was all in Louisiana and Mississippi, and that fascinated me. I thought 2 of the poorest states in the United States is doing $2 million a month. Imagine when this product starts to go across the nation, what could happen with this. That really fascinated me. But the other thing that fascinated me was listening to these guys speak so humbly about the vision, talk about how they were not out there trying to recruit network marketers, because that would have been an easy way to do it, that they were letting the company grow organically, that they wanted it to grow at whatever pace was going to grow at based on testimonials that worked, people loving the product, and they wanted to create a culture that was so fitting for what I wanted. People, and in fact, way back then, they said, we want a place where everybody works together as one team. Now, they didn't use the word one Plexus at the time, but that it would be one team. You see, because we had all come, the 3 of them and myself had come from a company where there was a very clear division. And there was actually 2 very strong teams that were being built. And you had to choose the side you were going to be on. And it was a very destructive culture. And because they had had that experience, they wanted to make sure that they created a place that everybody worked together. So they explained the comp plan and the Plexus points, and how by creating the Plexus points the way they did, they were creating a culture where we all supported one another, that we all had a vested interest in helping each other grow. I loved that. I really loved that. Then they suggested I get on the phone with Sheila Medina, who was then not yet the first diamond. She wasn't a diamond yet. But at the time, she was sort of the leader, the leader, and they suggested I get on the phone and talk with her. And that really cemented it. In fact, Sheila did something that she would never do anymore. But she said, you know, Natalie, I'll give you the username and password to my back office. Why don't you go in my back office and look through my genealogy? Maybe the questions you're asking can be answered by looking at my reports. But she suggested I do one other thing. She said, I want you to go through my genealogy and just randomly pick people and phone them and ask them why they're in Plexus. She gave me the breakdown. We didn't have any income disclosures at the time. So she said, if they're at this level, this is approximately how much they're making. If they're at this level, this is how much they're making. And I wrote that down, and I chose to call people at different levels. And the very first person I called, she and I talked about it actually just a couple of weeks ago when she was up here. Very first person I called had a really thick Louisiana accent. And I said, just a minute, I'm trying to think of what his name was, because it was just so much fun. But when I asked him what his name was, I gave him, I read the name as it was written in the report. I can't remember what it was, but it was the whole name. And he said, well, my friends call me, whatever the short form was. And he said, if you're calling me on my home phone, you must be my friend. And so I started chatting with him. But here was the fascinating story. This was a man who had started 9 months before. He was in his 60s. He had never done a home-based business. He had been downsized out of his job. He had lost over 100 pounds, and he was a Ruby ambassador. And he was making more money as a Ruby than he had ever made in his life. And he'd only been there 9 months. He didn't know how to do conference calls, didn't know how to do three-ways, didn't have a computer. And I looked at that and I thought, this is ridiculous. In 20 years, I've never seen anything like that. That somebody who had no experience, but then actually had no tech savvy, he wasn't tech savvy, and he clearly had no clue about the business, about how to talk to people, except he was enthusiastic because of his results. And I proceeded to call, and I spoke to a total of 6 people that night, and everybody was telling me this fascinating story. In their case, they had all come to Plexus for the product, and lo and behold, this business built. And that was the organic thing that these owners were talking about, this organic growth. People come in, like the product, use the product, share the product, grow a business. That real organic network marketing. I was fascinated by that. There was no games, there was no manipulation, there was nothing sinister, as can be the case sometimes in network marketing. It was just, we want people to use the product, like the product, share the product. And that was about as simple as it was. So I was in. I loved it. I thought, for the last company I'm going to do, for the last third of my life, as sad as that is to say, I'm now in the last third of my life, I wanted to find the one company that I knew would be here through my retirement years. So what are the things that I was looking for? I was looking for a few really key things when I was going to pick my last company. And that is, in network marketing, traditionally, there's different price points to get in. And that is the most common thing in network marketing companies. If you want to come in as a business builder, and I'm only talking about like the ambassador level, I'm not talking about customers, but if you want to come in as an ambassador, you can come in at this level, which is like $200. Or you can come in at this level at $500. But if you're serious about your business, you're going to come in at this level at $1,000 or more. And what they do is, to entice you to do that high amount, is they give you elements of the comp plan right away if you come in at the 1,000. But if you don't come in at the 1,000, if you only come at the 500, you're not getting the access to the whole comp plan right away. So you come in and you feel like, well, I don't want to already be at a disadvantage before I start. I guess I better put the $1,000 out. Well, what happens is you get a lot of very disappointed people when a month or two later they haven't been able to build and recover that money. So when I heard that Plexus was $99 or $199 for a welcome pack, and in fact, if you didn't want to get a welcome pack and you just bought products, if you didn't even buy products but you completed the month with 100 PV, you had the same access to the comp plan as anybody else. That was brilliant to me. I knew that I was going to make sure that everybody came in with a $99 or $199 welcome pack, but what I loved is they weren't at any disadvantage for choosing the $99 over the $199, or not at any disadvantage if they chose just to put a selection of products together. And if they didn't even buy any products and they had a customer do 100 PV, they still had access. That was fascinating, because what it meant is the company wasn't trying to take advantage of people. It wasn't all about moving products, so I love that. Then the other thing I wanted was a company that paid people well for generating customers. You see, it's been known for some time that the FTC does not like companies that are all weighing on the business, that all of their the weight of their comp plan and the way they influence people is all to come in as business builders. I loved when I came to Plexus that they actually paid us more when somebody wants to just be a user of our products if we enrolled them as a customer. So they weren't enticing us to make people ambassadors, because it's easy at $34.95 to get people to make that decision. They weren't compelling us by paying us a lot more money to make them ambassadors. In fact, it was the opposite. What I liked about that is, we know that there's this 80-20 rule. And the reality is that 20% of our people will build a network, will build a business if we're lucky. But the other 80%, if we can at least get them comfortable referring customers, they can do that. They might not take on a leadership role. They may not be able to lead people into going silver and building beyond, but they can refer customers. The challenge is, in most companies, they don't pay you enough to do just that. Well, we know in Plexus, you can generate a significant income by just referring customers. And hopefully, as they begin to do that, we can evolve them into a business builder. We can help them see the bigger picture. There's a woman in my team named Cammie. In her second month last month, her check was over $2,000. She didn't have one ambassador. She only had customers. She's a teacher. She works full-time, has 3 little kids. And I love it because I know she's going to be a rock star in this business. But it's okay that we do it on her time because I don't have to risk losing her. She's making a really significant income just having referred customers. That's unheard of in a network marketing. That's more the direct sales model, what I call the women's businesses. Buy product, sell it to somebody, deliver the product, write an invoice, all that heavy labor is why they get paid well to have customers. So network marketing, where the company does all the work, aside from us making the referral, they take the money and they ship out the product and they collect on returns and they do it all. So normally they don't pay us that well for customers, but Plexus does. That was fascinating. The other thing that was really important to me, and this is not going to mean something to a lot of you unless you've done network marketing, but what was really important to me is in most compensation plans, the only way you can advance into this more senior positions is by creating leadership in your level ones, certain leadership. For example, I'm going to use our titles. If you're going to be an emerald in most companies, if you're going to be at the level of emerald, they might say something like this. In this leg, you have to have a gold, or in 3 legs, you have to have a gold, and then you're going to have 2 silvers, and then you're going to have 2 senior ambassadors. And then if you want to go sapphire, well, then you're going to have 2 emerald legs, 2 gold legs. They do it like that. In the company that Tarl and Alec and I were in order to be at the top, which was called presidential, you had to have 6 legs doing 6,000 in volume. Well, that might seem pretty simple. On the outside and on the onset, it seems pretty simple. But the reality is, as you start to build, you're lucky to have 1 or 2 leaders. So what happens in those kind of comp plans, you get these 2 legs building because you found 2 leaders, and they're building pretty well. But their volume isn't qualifying you for any more advancement. So you got to be over here with those other 4 positions, those other 4 legs, building them to the 6,000. So it forces you to work where you don't want to work. You want to work with your leaders. You don't want to work with the people who you have to push the rope with them. And so, or the other thing that happens, as with the company, the 3rd company I went with, and I still generate a check every month with that company. I don't do it. I haven't done it since 2009. Take that as a hint. That's why we do residual income, because when we build it, they continue to pay us. Well, that company, when I left and decided to do Plexus, I had 1 person that her title was gold. Now my volume kept growing, but that personal of mine lost her gold title. And in that company, your golds have to be personals. When she lost her gold title, I lost my level, which took away my leadership lifestyle bonus, which is what we call our car allowance there. It's a leadership bonus, lifestyle bonus. That was taken away from me. My volume was bigger, but I lost a gold. Well, why am I saying all that? Because in Plexus, they do not tie leadership in your organization to your rank. They just say to be a gold, it's 100 points. To be a senior gold is 250. To be a ruby, it's 500. I call that our volume. To be an emerald is 1,500 points. They don't care where the points come from. You could be getting most of those points on your 5th, 6th, and 7th level. You could be getting them on in your top 3. You can be getting the majority, 13, or how many of it is it? It's 1,175 can come from 1 leg. And then 375 can come from all your other legs. I mean, it's crazy. They make it so simple for us that we can work with the workers. And we don't have to be pushing the ropes of the people that aren't working. So that was brilliant. And I will say this, and I know comp plans pretty well. I, in fact, traveled with 6 other professional network marketers and a comp plan engineer. There were 7 of us and a comp plan engineer evaluating 8 companies across the United States. We started with Orrin Woodward in Port St. Lucie, Florida, stayed at his home for a few days, and went all the way across to Sacramento. We did 8 companies in 7 states in 8 days. And we were charged with with questions that we needed to bring back. And those were things like, and here's the most important one, what is the one thing you would change in your comp plan? What's the one barrier you have to the average person starting easily and having success? What is the one thing you would change? From almost everybody we heard, it was the startup cost, that it was high and it was a huge barrier for people to get their business going. But the other thing that we heard a lot was the issue where people's personals were tied to their levels of advancement. Plexus doesn't have that. But not only that, I'm going to tell you, I've never seen a company else out. There's no company that I've ever seen out there that does not tie the people's leadership to your advancement, to your level of achievement. That doesn't seem huge to a lot of you. I promise you, it's one of the biggest things. One of the biggest things. I want to tell you the other thing that I loved is that a husband and wife could have a position. My husband passed away 2 years ago. It was unexpected. It was overnight. And, but I got to inherit his position. And a few months later, after he died, I was able to take his position to Emerald, leaving me with 2 Emerald positions and 2 cars and 4 people going to Maui. And that was really exciting for me to be able to do that. And a lot of companies, they don't allow a spouse to be in there. So my income would essentially be in half had I been with most companies. So those are sort of the key things. Obviously, products will work, but it was the culture. When I came to Plexus, I actually kind of felt like it was too good to be true. It really couldn't be that everybody liked each other that much. It couldn't be that these people were truly so kind that they would help each other out the way they did. I remember I hadn't been here very long, and Sonia, Dudley, and Helen McFadden were going to do a meeting in South Carolina. And I was a little nervous, even though I had already met them, and we seemed to have a relationship. But when I called them and said, I've got a couple people that are driving into the meeting, would there be any chance for you to just meet them just for a few minutes because they're networkers, so you could share your story? Well, they spent 45 minutes with them before the meeting. That just blew me away, that they would treat them and give them the kind of time that you would expect them to do for people in the first few levels maybe, but not total, people that they didn't benefit from at all. But that was just the beginning of seeing it over and over and over and over. And that is amazing. I love that there doesn't seem to be any politics. You never hear people speaking badly about one another. You just hear everybody loving each other. And if it weren't that I'd been here now for 3.5 years, almost 4 years, I feel like I kind of lost that first year, because literally the day, 1 week to the day that we signed up, my husband we were diagnosed with his cancer having metastasized one day. And he ended up dying, not from the cancer, unfortunately, but so that it was kind of a blur for a while, because he was in treatment 5 days a week, but we still took both positions to Senior Gold our first month. Back then, your husband could sign up right away. We did that because we knew that if you built it fast in the beginning, you could ride on those efforts. You could ride on that momentum for a long time. And we knew with what we were about to be, have in front of us with his health challenges, that we were going to make our job a lot easier if we could just put that effort in the first month, and then we could sort of ride on it. And that's really what we did. So I would say to you guys, if you're talking to networkers, here's just a couple things I would suggest that you remember. One is, when they're trying to sell you on their comp plan being better, it's hard to teach culture, and it's hard to share the culture of Plexus. The best thing you can do is send a few of the Diamond documentaries. If you can get them to a bigger event where there's going to be 100 or 200 ambassadors in the room, they're going to feel the presence. You've probably heard the expression that the bigger the level of exposure, the better the chances of them sort of getting that belief quickly. So if it's a one-on-one, their belief is this much. You put them in a room of 10 people and they hear a few testimonials, their belief is this much. But if you expose them to an event of a couple hundred people, their belief is like this much. So if you can get them into a bigger event, that's a really good thing to do. But it's hard to sell the culture. That's a really tough thing to do, because people have to experience that to really get that. But when it comes to our comp plan, there's a couple things you could ask them. You could say to them, hey, if somebody were to enroll 3 people, especially since so many companies out there are binaries, and if for those of you who don't know anything about a binary, if you enroll 3 people, that means 2 are on one leg and 1 is on the other. They're only getting paid on this one. They're getting paid on the smaller of the 2 legs. So you can ask somebody, I know, isn't it crazy? I know, it's crazy. But so if you say to somebody, okay, if you enroll 3 people and they each do 100 points of product, first of all, you could ask them, what would that cost if they did 100 points of product? The reason I say that is we're almost 1-to-1. In a lot of companies, 100 PV is $200. So if somebody were to spend $100 or do 100 PV worth of product, what would you get paid if you just had 3 business builders, ambassadors, marketing executives, distributors, whatever you call it in your company? Let them answer that question. because in a lot of companies, it's going to be almost nothing. Then you could say, hey, let me ask you another question. If you had 10 customers who spent $100 on product, for example, our Slim and Accelerator at $99. If you had 10 customers in your company spend $100 in product, what would that mean as a return for you? And you're going to hear crazy numbers. Let me tell you, Melaleuca, $100 is about 35 or 40 product points. But we're going to say 50, and we're going to be real generous because it's not 50. But let's just say 50. Guess what you're getting paid on those customers? 7%. $3.50. You have 10 customers, you made $35. Now you have 10 customers, somebody's showing, what's that? Are they Melaleuca checks? I love it.
Yep.
Hey, John, share with us what your checks are.
Now, I've been getting these since 2008. My lifetime commissions from Melaleuca is like $1,900 plus a few dollars. I have one check from April for $2.84 and one check from May for $2.56.
That's one customer.
I think that's one customer underneath me.
Yeah, that's one customer. I was being a little generous, John, when I said $350.
Yeah.
I'm being a little generous because it is actually more around $250, $275.
Mm-hmm.
So
just my commissions from Plexus this year, since January, is more than my lifetime commissions from Melaleuca.
Yeah, and that's the big difference. People don't realize that. When I tell people that we would have $400 in a month on 10 customers doing $100, most people don't believe us. So when you're talking to a network marketer, ask that. If you had 3 ambassadors doing 100, what would you be paid? And if you have 10 customers doing $100 worth of product, what would you be paid? I promise you there's not a network marketing company that could better what our numbers are. And you don't need anything really more than that. Now, Stephanie also wanted me to just mention a little bit about Canada. And the good news is I want to say that Canada's growing. And we have now, I think, 6 or 7 emeralds and above in Canada. So I kind of think of in September 2012, when I looked at Plexus and they were doing $2 million a month, there were 14 emeralds and above. 14. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's got to be about 500 now in Plexus. I mean, it was 125 new emeralds just since January. And there were about 300 when we went to Hawaii last year. So we've got to be about 500 emeralds and above. But there were 14 in September 2012 when I first looked at Plexus. Well, we now have 6 or 7 in Canada. So we're sort of where Plexus was when I first looked at Plexus is where Canada is now. That's exciting. People know that we've had shipping issues and we are still on what's called a not for resale. And that might scare you, but I want to tell you something. The company where I met Alfred Tarl and Alec, which was then called Enrich, is now called Unicity. Do you know that the majority of their products still now that company started in 1985. Most of their products for Canadians is still on the not for resale. It hasn't changed. So for those of you who don't understand, Canada has really strict rules. Plexus has an option. They can alter the formulas of the products and make them approved and get them approved in Canada. But that is not a good thing for us. We as leaders in Canada say, leave our products the way they are, don't alter the formulations. The products that are not approved, Boost, Accelerator, ProBio, BioCleanse, those 4 products are not, may never be approved. Leave them on the not for resale. That's okay. We'll order them from the States. And that is not a big issue. It's the way it is with many companies. And it's actually a strength. It's our strength because what we know then is the company is not willing to alter or reduce the effectiveness of a product just to satisfy our government agency. So for people that I speak to, I tell them that's a strength for us to know that the company's not willing to do that for us. But they make it easy for us to order them from the United States. Shipping has improved a lot, so people are getting their products in 7 to 10 days, which is fine. As long as people know that it's going to take that long, they're fine with it. So 7 to 10 days. For everything else we do in business, it's the same as the Americans. We can do our in-home meetings. We can do our public meetings. We can enroll people. The only thing we cannot do is do hand-to-hand sales. We can't say, would you like to buy this triplex from me? This is the cost. We can't do that. And I get around it by just saying, I want you to have the guarantee with the company. And I want to make sure that you get that refund of the 60-day money-back guarantee on your credit card. And therefore, I need you to order the products directly from the company. The other thing is I say, is I don't want to be an Avon lady. Avon ladies will collect money and deliver product. I'm not willing to do that. I'm a businesswoman, and I want to use the system that the company has set up. And that's to your advantage to do that, and you'll have your own website, and you can manage your own orders. And lastly, because I think we're probably over time, right, Stephanie? We're already over now?
We usually go 30 to 45 minutes, so you're good still. But
I'm finishing up.
There is so much information here. I'm
going to finish up.
So good.
Stephanie, you said to me, as a networker who's been in the industry for a while, what would be some tips or some advice you would leave everybody with?
Yes.
And this is what I would like to say to you guys. First of all, you're lucky. If this is your first network marketing company, you are really, really, really lucky that you found Plexus. If I can say this, one disappointment I've had is that I got a call from Alfred back in 2008 asking if I would be interested in doing Plexus. And when these guys called, I honestly did not believe that this company was ever going to be the company it is right now. So when my friend said to me in 2012, you should check out Plexus, call these guys and talk to them. I think you're going to love what they have. And once I realized, my only regret is that last 3 years, I had done nothing and I could have been here. But, everybody's timing, I have to believe that it was the perfect time for me to get in when I did, and I live with that. But what I would say to you is that you're lucky that you're here. Be really proud. I love it when I hear people, and I remember when Rita Davenport at Leadership last year, when she talked about how, and I can't remember how she said it, but she said how lucky she was, or when she was giving us the words to explain how proud we are to be a Plexus ambassador. Be really bold with how proud you are of what you do. Be really, really bold with it. Make sure that whenever you have an opportunity, when somebody says, what do? Make sure that you are so enthusiastic about how fortunate you are to work with one of the fastest growing companies in the United States, and that you own your own business. But the only other thing I want to say to you is, you can get good at doing presentations, and you can learn how to manage a PowerPoint, and you can understand the compensation plan, and you can do all of that stuff. But the number one thing you got to get good at is asking people to take a look at Plexus. It's the invitation. Because nothing else matters if you can't get in front of people. So if you're not comfortable with, for me, for example, I'll give you the one thing that I always say to people. I feel the most comfortable talking to total strangers when I'm out and about. If I'm in a store and somebody is enthusiastic, if Stephanie's serving me and she's outgoing and charismatic and, has this really fun personality, I would start by saying, Stephanie, by any chance, is this your business? Do you own this business? They might own it. But no, most of the time they say, no, I wish. No, I just work here. And I would say, Stephanie, you are so good at what you do. You should not be working for somebody. With your talent, you should have your own business. I'm actually expanding my business in the area, and I look for people like you to mentor and coach in your own business. And we work together. I would love the opportunity to show you what I do. It may or may not, and this is the critical things, it may or may not be for you, but if you see it the way I think you might see it, you could be awesome at this business. I would love the opportunity to mentor you in this business. And the thing is, you don't know them, so it doesn't really matter what they say, but they never say, my experience is they never say no. What happens is when I say to Stephanie, she's in the store, when do you have a coffee break? Is there any chance that you might have a coffee break or a lunch break in the next couple hours? I would love to buy you a coffee. I'd love to buy you lunch. I'd love to meet with you and just show you what I do. And again, it may not be for you, but you'll know what I do and you may be able to refer somebody. And find words that are comfortable to you and get the invitation down. Now, I know most of you probably use social media because you're younger than me, so you know how to do that a lot better. But outside of social media, there's lots of opportunities. And so the very last thing I'm going to say to you is I want you, and I'm going to leave you with this one little tiny exercise, and it's only going to take 2 minutes, and then I'm going to get off, is I want you to be really clear on who you are looking for on your team. And that means you're not looking for everybody who's overweight, right? You're not looking for that. You are looking for the outgoing, enthusiastic, charismatic, bubbly, friendly. You know, I don't want to put words in your mouth. That's what I look for. Those are the kinds of people I look for. I want you to get really clear, and I want you to write it down. And here's the reason why. We have something called a reticular activating system. That RAS, or reticular activating system, can only see what you tell it to see. So I'm going to give you a little exercise. I want you to look around the room you're in right now. And I want you to look at everything in the room that is red. And I want you to commit it to memory. Look above you, below you, around you, on your desk, what you're wearing, the pictures, everything in the room that is red. And then I want you, once you think you've got it all committed to memory, I want you to close your eyes. Now, when you close your eyes, I want you to now try to recall everything in the room that is yellow. And it's going to be hard, right? Because your mind was looking for red. Now, why do you do that? Because if you go out thinking, oh, because you've just lost 25 pounds and you're so excited, you're looking for everybody who can lose weight, then you're looking around and you're looking for all the heavier people. But you're missing the Stephanie who's been bubbly and outgoing, who happens to be skinny, because you were looking for somebody that was heavier. Your reticular activating system will only see what you tell it to see. So make sure you're asking for the right person for your team so you don't miss them, because it could be the person that's serving you. It could be the person who's pumping gas. It could be the person who's standing beside you while your kids are playing at the playground. So make sure you really clearly identify who you're looking for, because then they're going to be nice and bold in front of you. Because after all, how do you go up to a stranger who needs to lose weight anyway? All you're going to do is worry about how can you possibly talk to them, and then you get in the car and you think, oh man, that person really could have really used our products and I couldn't find a way to talk to them. But it's real easy to talk to somebody that you can compliment right away by saying how outgoing and bubbly they are, and that they're the perfect person for your team, and that you're expanding your business in the area and would love the opportunity to share with them what you do.
Wow. Okay, Natalie, this was oh my goodness, this was so good. I've just been sitting here. I haven't even taken notes because I'm just like trying to soak it all in, and I'm going to review it again. But your language that you talked about was just, it was so genuine. It was so organic, but you knew what you wanted. Just like you said, the little tip with the RAS. I mean,
RAS?
That's so amazing. That was so very good. Thank you so much for being
good. Well, thank you for having me on here, and I look forward to seeing you guys.
I know.
Vegas.
I know. Just a few weeks away. So,
yes.
Boy, guys, I hope you guys got a lot of awesome tips out of this tonight. Thank you again, Natalie, for taking time.
Thank you.
And if you see her in Vegas, be sure to say hey, and that you got to see her on a team training. I know there's several of you that are going to be there. So thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Awesome.
Thank you, Natalie.
Bye.
Thank you.